pain. Her temples felt as if they had been struck by a hammer, a throbbing, rhythmic ache. Lin Zhixia's consciousness drifted in the darkness. Intermittent sobbing reached her ears. Something warm and damp dripped onto her face. Sister. Sister, wake up. Don't leave Xiao Qiu behind. A young tender voice cried out in heartbreak. A small warm hand clutched tightly at her sleeve. Lin Zhixia summoned all her strength to open her eyes. Before her was a dilapidated woodshed. The wall plaster was peeling off. Light leaked through the roof. A 3 or 4-year-old boy was huddled beside her. His eyes were red and swollen from crying. His little face was as dirty as a stray cat's. Snot and tears smeared his entire face. Yet he was still using his filthy sleeve to gently wipe the wound on her forehead. Xiao Qiu. Lin Zhixia subconsciously called out the name. Her voice was so hoarse it didn't sound like her own. The little boy looked up abruptly. A startling brightness erupted in those red swollen eyes. Sister. Sister, you're finally awake. He opened his arms to rush toward her, but fearing he might hurt her, he froze in mid-air. His little mouth quivered, and tears began to fall patter by patter. Lin Zhixia braced herself and sat up. She looked down at a pair of thin, withered hands belonging to a child. She was wearing coarse, patched clothing. She was stunned. Memories flooded into her mind like a tide. Lin Zhixia, head of the modern pharmaceutical group Renshin Hall, 36 years old, self-made. She had turned an ancestral pharmacy into a multi-billion-dollar empire. She was decisive in her actions, meticulous in her thinking, and had never lost in the business world. Yet she had failed to guard against the person closest to her cousin Lin Zhiyi. She had raised her since she was a child, teaching her personally how to manage accounts, identify herbs, and negotiate. She had groomed this cousin as her future successor, giving her shares, giving her power, giving her trust. What she received in return was a meticulously planned car accident, brake failure, plunging off a cliff, flames soaring into the sky. At the very last moment, she saw Lin Zhiyi standing by the roadside in the rearview mirror, a faint smile on her lips. Now, she was here, in the body of a 6-year-old girl who had been in a coma for 3 full days. Lin Zhixia closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the initial confusion was gone from those almond-shaped eyes. Replacing it was the coldness and sharpness honed over 36 years in her past life. She quickly sorted through the original owner's memories. The original owner was also named Lin Zhixia. She was 6 years old. Her father Lin Zhiyi had left home to join the army 3 years ago and had been missing ever since. Her mother, Madame Bai, was frail and sickly, bedridden for a long time. The 2 siblings lived with their grandparents, enduring constant scorn, freeloading money wasters. That was what their grandmother, Madame Wang, always said. 3 days ago, her mother's condition worsened, and she urgently needed medicine to survive. The original owner had knelt before her uncle Lin Zhongga, begging bitterly. Her uncle found her an eyesore and turned away. The original owner lunged and fell to the ground, heartbroken, fainted on the spot, cracked her forehead, and remained unconscious. No one called a doctor. No one applied medicine to her wounds. A 6-year-old child was thrown onto a pile of straw in the woodshed, left to fend for themselves. 3 days, 3 whole days. Only her 3-year-old brother Xiao Qiu stayed by her side. He used his dirty little hands to wipe the blood off her. He took the half-piece of steamed bun he had saved for himself, chewed it up, and fed it to her. Lin Zhixia touched the wound on her forehead. It had already scabbed over. She took a deep breath and turned to look at her brother beside her. Xiao Qiu was looking at her timidly, tears still swirling in his eyes, but he was trying his best not to let them fall. Sister, does it hurt? Lin Zhixia's heart softened. She reached out and ruffled his hair. It doesn't hurt anymore. She then remembered something else and asked in a low voice, "Where is mother?" Xiao Qiu's eyes turned red instantly, and the tears could no longer be held back, falling drop by drop. "Mother is asleep. I can't wake her up. And sister wouldn't wake up either." Xiao Qiu was so scared. Lin Zhixia froze. On the second night of the original owner's coma, Mother Bai could not wait for that life-saving medicine and passed away quietly in the inner room next door. Xiao Qiu was all alone, watching over his unconscious sister for a whole day and night, a 3-year-old child. Lin Zhixia's eyes turned red instantly. She pulled Xiao Qiu into her arms and held him tight. "Don't be scared anymore. Sister is awake now. From now on, sister will protect you." Xiao Qiu leaned on her shoulder and finally burst into tears as if he wanted to cry out all the fear and grievances of the past 3 days. Lin Zhixia gently patted his back, but her eyes grew cold, inch by inch. Just then, a crisp sound suddenly echoed in her mind, like something shattering. A flash of white light appeared before her eyes, and a massive space appeared within her consciousness. It was about 300 square meters, perfectly square, like a giant warehouse. Inside, piles of supplies were neatly stacked. Against the walls were rows of shelves filled with sealed grains, rice, flour, millet, oatmeal, and various kinds of beans. Next to them was the medical section. Traditional Chinese medicine, herbs, medical equipment, and disinfectant supplies, all perfectly packaged with clear labels. Further in was the daily necessities section, clothing and bedding, pots, pans and bowls, ropes, and even hundreds of barrels of purified water, along with boxes of compressed biscuits and military rations. Lin Zhixia stood in the space within her consciousness, stunned for quite a while. These were the supplies she had stockpiled in her private warehouse in her past life. She had a habit of hoarding things in the basement of her villa, following doomsday survival standards enough for one person to last 10 years. She never expected that these supplies would actually follow her soul through the transmigration, and time in this space was frozen. She picked up a bag of rice. The production date marked on the bag was 1 week before her transmigration. Lin Zhixia exited the space, looked down at Xiao Qiu in her arms, who was tired from crying and was drifting off to sleep, then looked at the sky outside the window. It was nearly dusk. She made a decision. Tonight, they would leave, but she wouldn't leave empty-handed. She was going to strip this place that had bled her original family dry, clean to the bone. The night grew deep. The entire Lin household was fast asleep. Lin Zhixia gently laid Xiao Qiu down on the pile of straw, covering him with a thin blanket taken from the space. Then she rose quietly. She first went to the inner room next door to look at Lady Bai's remains. She was wrapped hastily in a tattered straw mat. No one had bought her a coffin. No one had burned spirit money for her. Lin Zhixia stood in silence for a while. She took a clean piece of cotton cloth from the space and carefully tidied up Lady Bai's appearance. She then took medicinal herbs and some silver pieces from the space and placed them by Lady Bai's side. "Take these with you and be born into a better family in your next life," she whispered softly. Then she bowed deeply. Not for the original owner, but for the 3-year-old brother. On behalf of Xiao Qiu, she saw his mother off on her final journey. After doing all this, Lin Zhixia turned and headed toward the Lin family's granary. The stone room held all the savings Lin Batao had accumulated over the years. Over 100 shi of grain, a dozen bolts of cloth, jars of silver and copper coins, and valuable medicinal herbs and artifacts. Everything, not a single thing was left behind. The entire process took less than an hour, clean and efficient, leaving no trace behind. Having finished this, Lin Zhixia returned to the woodshed and gently shook Xiao Qiu awake. "Xiao Qiu, big sister is taking you to find father. How about that?" Xiao Qiu rubbed his eyes, nodding groggily. "Okay, let's find father." He suddenly remembered something and asked in a small voice, "Sister, where is mother?" Lin Zhixia paused for a moment, crouched down, looked him in the eyes, and said earnestly, "Mother has gone to heaven, a place very, very far away. But mother said that Xiao Qiu and sister must live well and go find father. That way, mother will be happy in heaven." The 3-year-old child didn't quite understand what heaven meant, but he understood this. Mother will be happy. He nodded vigorously, clutching Lin Zhixia's fingers tightly. "Xiao Qiu will go find father to make mother happy." Lin Zhixia said nothing more. She hoisted Xiao Qiu onto her back and secured him firmly with a strip of cloth. On a dark and windy night, a 6-year-old girl, carrying a 3-year-old boy on her back, vanished into the vast darkness. The moonlight shone coldly down, and wild dogs howled in the distance. Xiao Qiu lay on her back, his little arms wrapped around her neck, whispering, "Sister, am I heavy?" Lin Zhixia felt a lump in her throat. "Not heavy at all. You're as light as a little sparrow." Xiao Qiu smiled happily, buried his face in her shoulder, and fell asleep shortly after. By the time dawn was breaking, Lin Zhixia had finally reached the main road. She unfastened Xiao Qiu from her back, held him in her arms, and sat down against a large tree by the roadside. A 6-year-old stamina had reached its limit. She needed to rest. She opened the space, took out a flask of water, fed Xiao Qiu first, drank a few mouthfuls herself, and took out a piece of compressed biscuit. "Break it into small pieces and eat slowly." A pale white glow appeared on the distant horizon. A long procession appeared on the horizon. Ragged refugees, pushing wheelbarrows, carrying bundles on their backs, like a gray river, flowing slowly toward the south. Lin Zhixia narrowed her eyes, her heart sinking. Refugees fleeing from famine. This meant that the era she had transmigrated into was experiencing a great famine, and she, a 6-year-old girl, carrying a 3-year-old brother on her back, had to walk 800 miles through a chaotic world to find a father whose fate was unknown. The road ahead was long and the dangers were unpredictable, but she, Lin Zhixia, who had built a multi-billion fortune from scratch in her past life, could surely do the same and carve out a path to survival on this road of refugees. "Let's go." She gently patted Xiao Qiu's cheek to wake him up and hoisted him back onto her back. "Big sister is taking you to find father. Father must be waiting for us." Lin Zhixia smiled. "Yes, he is definitely waiting." The morning glow filled the sky like a raging wildfire, one big and one small. Two thin, frail figures merged into the torrent of refugees. On the main road, people were packed shoulder to shoulder. Lin Zhixia carried Xiao Qiu on her front, strapping him tightly with a strip of cloth. This way she could check on her brother at any time and prevent them from being separated by the crowd. The air was filled with a sour, foul stench. The wailing of children and the groans of the elderly were intertwined. "Move, move, don't block the way." A rude shout came from behind. An ox cart came charging through recklessly. Lin Zhixia dodged to the side, barely avoiding the wheels. On the cart sat a fat, big-eared merchant, with a young woman sitting beside him. Surrounded by piles of luggage, she glanced at Lin Zhixia and her brother and spat with disdain. Two little beggars. Xiao Qiu was so scared he shivered, burying his face in Lin Zhixia's neck. Lin Zhixia watched the retreating back of the person with a blank expression, silently memorizing that face in her heart. She lowered her head and whispered to Xiao Qiu, "Xiao Qiu, don't be afraid. People like that won't get far." Xiao Qiu looked up. Why? Because for being so wicked, heaven will punish them. Xiao Qiu, only half understanding, gave an "oh" and buried his face back in. After walking for the entire morning, Xiao Qiu started complaining of hunger. Lin Zhixia found a quiet, secluded spot, took a meat bun out from her space, wrapped it in a handkerchief, and handed one to Xiao Qiu. Xiao Qiu took the bun, his eyes lighting up instantly, but he didn't eat it right away. Instead, he held the bun up to Lin Zhixia's lips. "Sister, you eat first." Lin Zhixia felt her heart melt completely. She took a small bite. "There, it is done. Sister has eaten." Xiao Qiu, "Eat quickly." Only then did Xiao Qiu hold the bun and start eating in big bites, his cheeks bulging out like a little hamster. "Sister, this bun is so delicious." Xiao Qiu's mouth was covered in grease, his eyes smiling into crescents. "Did you make this, sister?" "Yes, I made it. From now on, I'll make you delicious things every day." Just then, a commotion broke out ahead. "They're serving porridge. Someone's serving porridge." The refugees surged forward like madmen. Lin Zhixia was forced forward by the crowd. She held Xiao Qiu tightly, planting herself firmly in place like a rock, struggling to keep her balance. In the chaos, a hand reached out toward Xiao Qiu. Lin Zhixia's eyes sharpened, and she twisted the hand back. A scrawny man shrieked, clutching his wrist. Staring at the young girl in disbelief, Lin Zhixia looked up, her gaze as cold as ice. "Get lost." The man shuddered at the look in her eyes, scrambling into the crowd to flee. Xiao Qiu was terrified, looking up at his sister, his lips trembling. Lin Zhixia lowered her head, her expression softening instantly. She gently rubbed the tip of his nose. "It is okay, Xiao Qiu. Be good. Big sister is here." Xiao Qiu blinked and suddenly grinned. "Big sister is so strong." The chaos gradually subsided. Lin Zhixia finally saw where the porridge was being served. A crude porridge shed had been set up by the road. Several young servants in green robes stood underneath, handing out the porridge. Behind the shed sat a green carriage. The curtain of the carriage was lifted slightly, revealing a delicate face. It was a young girl of about 15 or 16. She curiously surveyed the refugees outside, her gaze suddenly stopping on Lin Zhixia, a 6-year-old girl, holding a 3-year-old boy in her arms. Though the girl was dressed in rags, her back was held straight as an arrow, and her eyes were bright and deep, like stars in a dark pool. The young lady's gaze met Lin Zhixia's in the air. Lin Zhixia was slightly startled, then lowered her eyes, bowing her head, putting on a timid appearance, but the young lady had already seen it. She turned and said something to someone inside the carriage. The curtain was pulled back further. A woman in her 30s leaned out. The woman wore a plain-colored jacket, with only a single silver hairpin in her hair, her demeanor gentle and dignified. She followed the girl's gesture to look at Lin Zhixia, her eyes lingering for a few moments on those thin but strong hands. "Go. Invite those 2 children over," the woman ordered in a low voice. Lin Zhixia naturally heard this. She quickly calculated in her mind. This woman was clearly wealthy or noble. To be serving porridge in such chaotic times meant she had significant resources. More importantly, she saw 2 children, not a burden. Lin Zhixia held her brother tighter and walked toward the carriage. "Child, what is your name? Where are your parents?" Madame Gu handed a bowl of hot porridge to Lin Zhixia, her tone gentle. "My lady, my name is Lin Zhixia. This is my brother, Xiao Qiu." Lin Zhixia took the porridge, not rushing to drink it herself, but blowing on it to cool it down first, and feeding it to Xiao Qiu. "My father joined the army 3 years ago, in the northern frontier. My mother passed away from illness a few days ago. I am taking my brother to find our father." Madame Gu was slightly taken aback, watching the 6-year-old girl feed her brother. She seemed as skilled as a little adult. "Where did you come from? Traveling alone with your brother?" "Qinghe County." "Qinghe County?" Madame Gu was startled. Qinghe County is over 50 miles away from here. A 6-year-old child carrying a 3-year-old brother, walking such a long distance. The young girl beside her, Gu Wanning, already had reddened eyes. Madame Gu reached out and gently touched Xiao Qiu's cheek. "Mother, they are so pitiful. Let's take them with us." After finishing his porridge, Xiao Qiu looked up at Ji Wanning and suddenly grinned. revealing 2 tiny teeth. "Big sister, you're so pretty." Gu Wanning was stunned, her face turning bright red. Madame Gu couldn't help but smile, her gaze toward Lin Zhixia, softening even more. "Zhixia, we are also on a journey, heading back to Qingzhou in the south. You are going to the northern frontier. The directions are completely opposite, but for the next 100 miles we are on the same path. You can follow us for now, and we'll decide what to do when we reach the fork in the road. How does that sound?" Lin Zhixia did not hesitate, and solemnly knelt down to kowtow. In gratitude, "Thank you, madam." She was not a pretentious person. Having spent over 20 years struggling in the business world in her past life, she knew better than anyone. Accepting kindness is nothing to be ashamed of. Only a fool would suffer just to save face. Madame Gu quickly helped her up. "How is this child so mature?" Lin Zhixia lowered her eyes and said softly, "I have no choice. I must take care of my brother. I cannot be immature." Madame Gu felt a pang in her heart and asked no more. The Gu family's group consisted of over 30 people. Besides Madame Gu, her daughter, and young son Gu Zhao, there were guards, maids, servants, and an elderly physician named Song Boren. Lin Zhixia and her brother were arranged on a flatbed cart in the middle of the group, traveling alongside the luggage. Xiao Qiu fell asleep after sitting for a while, his little head bobbing and tilting to the side. Lin Zhixia pulled him into her arms, letting him rest his head on her lap. Her eyes never rested for a moment, secretly observing the entire group. Madame Gu was a widow. Her husband, Gu Yuanzhou, had served as the prefect of Qingzhou and passed away in office last year. She was taking her children back to their hometown for burial. Although she had guards, their numbers were few, barely enough to ensure safety in these chaotic times. The maids and servants in the group had mixed attitudes toward the siblings. Some were sympathetic, some were indifferent, and some saw them as a burden. Lin Zhixia understood clearly. Madame Gu took them in out of a moment of kindness, but how long that kindness would last depended on her own value. She didn't rush to prove herself, but followed the group quietly and dutifully. She helped when needed, and stayed silent when appropriate. Xiao Qiu, on the other hand, didn't need to try at all. He was a walking generator of cuteness. The next morning, the group stopped to rest. Gu Wanning sat by the carriage embroidering. Xiao Qiu leaned in, tilting his head to watch for a long time, and said in a milky voice, "Sister Wanning, are you embroidering flowers?" "Yes, are they pretty?" "Pretty. Prettier than the flowers Xiao Qiu saw yesterday." After saying this, Xiao Qiu squatted down and earnestly helped Gu Wanning pick up the thread scraps that had fallen on the ground. Gu Wanning's heart nearly melted. After a while, Lady Gu sat to the side, her brows tightly furrowed. Gao Zhao had developed a fever again last night. Old Dr. Song said the child's constitution is too weak, and he likely wouldn't survive the hardships of the journey. Xiao Qiu, not knowing when it happened, had run over to Lady Gu's side. He looked up at her with his little face for a while, then silently picked up a tiny purple wildflower from the ground. He held it out to Lady Gu. "Don't cry, Auntie. Xiao Qiu is giving you a flower." Lady Gu looked down at the dirty little thing, and her eyes instantly turned red. She took the little flower and gently patted Xiao Qiu's head. Xiao Qiu grinned, revealing his 2 little teeth. Lady Gu broke into a smile through her tears. Lin Zhixia, who had been watching this scene, curved the corners of her mouth slightly. Her younger brother's social skills were much better than hers. The turning point occurred on the 3rd night. The group set up camp at a ruined temple by the road. In the middle of the night, Gu Wanning's scream startled everyone awake. Gu Zhao had a high fever, his whole body burning hot, and he had started convulsing. Old Dr. Song was called over, and after checking his pulse, his face turned ashen. "It is an acute infantile convulsion, and it is quite severe. I am missing 2 key medicinal ingredients: antelope horn and uncaria. In this place far from any village or town. I'm afraid." She didn't finish her sentence, but everyone understood what she meant. Lady Gu's face turned pale in an instant, and she looked as if she were about to collapse. Gu Wanning was already crying. Lin Zhixia stood at the entrance of the ruined temple, holding the awakened Xiao Qiu in her arms. Without saying a word, she had medicine in her space. She had patent Chinese medicine, antelope horn oral liquid, as well as dried uncaria. If she just took them out, Gu Zhao could live. The problem was how to take them out. How could a 6-year-old girl, whose mother had just passed away, possibly be carrying such precious medicinal ingredients? Lin Zhixia hesitated for only 3 seconds before walking into the ruined temple. "Let me see." Everyone's gaze focused on her. Old Dr. Song frowned. "Little girl, this is no time for games." Lin Zhixia ignored her and walked straight to Jiyu Zhao's side. She reached out, lifted his eyelids to check, and then checked his pulse. Her movements were fluid and practiced, not like those of a 6-year-old child, but like those of an old doctor with years of experience. Old Dr. Song was stunned. "My mother was in poor health and took medicine year-round. I learned some medical skills from her." Lin Zhixia looked up at Lady Gu. "I can treat Gu Zhao's illness, but I don't have a few of the ingredients with me. I need to go to the flatbed cart and look for them." She didn't say, "I have the medicine," but instead said, I'll go look for them. This phrasing was crucial. Looking for them implied she might not find them, and even if she did find them, it could be explained as having been hidden in the luggage before. Lady Gu clutched at her like a drowning person grabbing a straw. Zhixia, can you really treat him? I can. She turned and walked out of the ruined temple. She rummaged through the luggage on the flatbed cart for a while, and from her space, took out the antelope horn oral liquid she had pre-packaged, and a small bag of uncaria. She wrapped them in an old piece of cloth, and brought them back to the ruined temple. Dr. Song, please see if these can be used. Old Dr. Song took the items. He opened them to take a look. This is antelope horn powder and uncaria. The quality is excellent. Little girl, where did you get these? My mother prepared them before she passed away. She knew her health was failing. She was afraid that no one would look after my brother and me, so she set aside some common medicines. Although this explanation was a bit far-fetched, given the context of a mother who was terminally ill and sensed that her days were numbered, it was at least plausible. Madame Gu was already too preoccupied to press for more details. Zhixia, you write the prescription. Just tell me whatever you need. Lin Zhixia did not decline. She walked up to old Dr. Song, leaned down to pick up a dry twig, and quickly drew a symbol in the mud. Old Dr. Song looked down. He had seen this mark before. It was the one his master had drawn for him on his deathbed. The final stroke, no one else in the world should have known it. The medicine was brewed and administered. An hour later, Zhao's high fever began to break. Another hour passed. The convulsions stopped, although his little face was still pale. His breathing had steadied. Madame Gu collapsed onto the ground, covering her face and weeping. Wanning rushed over to hug her mother, crying along with her. Lin Zhixia stepped aside and picked Xiao Qiu up from the cart. Xiao Qiu, still groggy, wrapped his arms around her neck, mumbled something. Sister is amazing, and fell back asleep. Lin Zhixia gently patted his back, the corners of her mouth curling up. From this moment on, she was no longer just a little beggar girl being taken in. After Zhao recovered, Madame Gu's attitude toward Lin Zhixia changed completely. Not only did she invite her and Xiao Qiu from the cart into the carriage, but she also had the maid prepare clean clothes and warm meals, specifically for the siblings. Wanning even treated Xiao Qiu like her own younger brother. Xiao Qiu, she braided his hair and told him stories. Xiao Qiu giggled with delight. Old Dr. Song also began to take Lin Zhixia seriously. He probed a few times, asking where she had learned her medical skills. My mother taught me while she was alive. Although old Dr. Song was skeptical, he didn't press the matter further. One day, old Dr. Song suddenly asked her, "Little girl, do you know how to read?" Lin Zhixia paused. She couldn't hide this. A 6-year-old poor girl might not know how to read, but a little doctor who could write prescriptions and recite the properties of herbs could not possibly be illiterate. I know a little. My mother taught me. Then write a few characters for me to see. Lin Zhixia picked up a branch and wrote on the ground Ren Xin Tang. This was the brand she had founded in her past life. As she wrote it out, her heart was filled with mixed emotions. Old Dr. Song looked at it again and gasped. This girl. Your mother wasn't an ordinary person, was she? Lin Zhixia smiled, but did not answer. Days passed one by one. The group was getting closer to the fork in the road, but Lin Zhixia keenly sensed that something was wrong. Behind the group, there were a few more tails. They weren't ordinary refugees. The look in those people's eyes was different. They weren't just traveling. It looked more like they were tailing us. Lin Zhixia observed them calmly for an entire day. She confirmed someone was following them. No, to be precise, they were following her and Xiao Qiu. Her heart sank. The Lin family had come after them. Lin Botao would have discovered the granary was emptied and the family wealth gone. He would surely suspect her. Combined with her and her brother's sudden disappearance, it wouldn't take long for him to guess that the two children had overheard something. Their grandparents would not let them go. Lin Zhixia took a deep breath, her mind racing. She couldn't implicate the Zhiyu family, but she couldn't leave the Gu family's protection yet either. Setting out alone with Xiao Qiu to face pursuers meant almost no chance of survival. What should she do? She didn't struggle with the decision for long. In her past life in the business world, her greatest strength was finding a breakthrough in a disadvantageous position. That evening, after tucking Xiao Qiu into bed, she found Madame Gu and confessed part of the truth. Madam, someone is coming for me and Xiao Qiu. Lin Zhixia knelt before Madame Gu, her voice calm. I don't know who they are, but they are tracking us. I cannot implicate you and your group. When we reach the fork in the road tomorrow, I will leave. Madame Gu looked at her, remaining silent for a long time. You are a 6-year-old child, carrying a 3-year-old brother. Where could you possibly go? Lin Zhixia didn't answer, but her eyes said it all. Madame Gu suddenly reached out and pulled Lin Zhixia up from the ground. You saved my son's life. This debt of gratitude I could never repay in a lifetime. If you must go, I will not stop you, but I cannot let you leave just like this. She took a heavy purse from her chest and pressed it into Lin Zhixia's hand. There are 5 taels of silver and some copper coins here for the road. This is a token of the Zhiyu family. If you ever face hardship in the future, take this to any Ji family shop. and someone will help you. Lin Zhixia looked at the items in her hand, her eyes turning red. I cannot thank you enough for your kindness. If there is ever a chance in the future, Zhixia will surely repay you. Silly child, don't talk about repayment, just live well, and raise your brother. That is the best repayment. Early the next morning, the group reached Shuangakkou, the fork in the road. South led to Qingzhou, north led to the northern frontier. Lin Zhixia strapped Xiao Qiu to her back and bid farewell to Madame Guiyu. Gu Wanning was crying her eyes out. Xiao Qiu, you must come visit me in the future, you hear? Don't cry, Sister Wanning. Once I find father, I'll come see you. Madame Guy gave the siblings a large bag of dry rations and extra clothes. Lin Zhixia took them and tucked them all into her space. As they parted, Madame Guy whispered to Lin Zhixia, Zhixia, you are a clever child. There are some things I don't want to ask too much about, but remember this, no matter who you are, no matter where you are going, you and Xiao Qiu deserve to live a good life. Lin Zhixia understood the implication behind her words. Madame Guy had long since sensed that she was unusual, but had simply never brought it up. Madam, thank you. She turned around, carrying Xiao Qiu on her back, and stepped onto the road heading north. The group, heading south, gradually faded into the distance. Zhiyi Wanning's voice still drifted on the wind. Xiao Qiu, take good care of yourself. Xiao Qiu lay on Lin Zhixia's back, looking back at the group that was growing smaller and smaller, and whispered, Sister Wanning is crying. Lin Zhixia's voice was a bit hoarse. I know, dear. Xiao Qiu was silent for a moment, then suddenly said, Sister, when I grow up, I'm going to be a great general, to protect Sister Wanning, and to protect you too. Lin Zhixia smiled, but tears fell from her eyes. Good, I'll be waiting. After leaving the Ge family's group, life became even harder. Without the protection of the group, the siblings were completely exposed to the chaotic world. Lin Zhixia had to be even more cautious. During the day, she tried to follow groups of refugees, and at night, she found hidden places to rest. The food and water in her space were plentiful, but Lin Zhixia dared not let anyone discover that. These two children never lacked food. Sometimes she would deliberately take Xiao Qiu to queue at the porridge-giving stations, and sometimes she would intentionally eat things that looked miserable, crushing compressed biscuits, mixing them with water into a paste, pretending they had been scavenged from the ground. Xiao Qiu was very sensible and never complained. Once, when Lin Zhixia felt sorry for him, she secretly gave him a can of meat. Xiao Qiu's eyes squinted with delight as he ate, but halfway through, he suddenly stopped, scooped a piece with his small spoon, and held it to Lin Zhixia's mouth. Sister, you eat too? Lin Zhixia felt a lump in her throat and opened her mouth to eat it. Sister, how much longer until we find father? Soon. Lin Zhixia calculated the distance. They had been walking for nearly a month. In another half-month they should reach the northern frontier. Will father not recognize Xiao Qiu anymore? Xiao Qiu suddenly lowered his head, his voice very small. I've almost forgotten what father looks like. Lin Zhixia felt a pang of heartache, reaching out to pull him into her arms. He thinks of you every day, just as you think of him. When we see father, he will recognize you at a single glance. Xiao Qiu lifted his face, his eyes shining brightly. Really? Really? Only then was Xiao Qiu reassured, stuffing the last bit of meat into his mouth, his cheeks bulging, and said indistinctly, Then we must walk faster. Father will cry if he gets too anxious waiting. Lin Zhixia couldn't help but laugh. Father is a great general. He won't cry. But Xiao Qiu cries when he gets anxious. Father is just like Xiao Qiu. He will cry too. As Lin Zhixia laughed, her eyes grew red again. After walking for another 5 days, trouble arrived. It was at dusk. The siblings were staying in an abandoned earth god temple. Lin Zhixia settled Xiao Qiu down. Just as she was about to take some food out from her storage space, she suddenly heard movement outside. She immediately became alert, hid Xiao Qiu in the crevice behind the statue, and whispered, Xiao Qiu, be a good boy. No matter what sounds you hear, don't come out. Sister will be right back. Xiao Qiu was pale with fear, but he nodded firmly. Crouching in the crevice, his little hands covering his mouth tightly, Lin Zhixia pulled a bottle of pepper spray from her storage space, held it in her hand, and peeked out against the wall. 3 men were walking toward the Earth Temple. Judging by their attire, they weren't refugees. Although their clothes were old, they were neat, and they had short blades tucked into their waists. The Lin family's servants. Lin Zhixia's heart sank to the bottom. They had tracked them down. Those 2 brats should be right ahead. Master Lin said to take them alive. The older one is to be interrogated. The younger one we can do with as we please. The other 2 chuckled lewdly. Lin Zhixia gripped the pepper spray bottle, her mind racing. A direct fight was impossible. She was just a 6-year-old child, and even with the pepper spray, she couldn't take on 3 grown men. Run? She couldn't run fast with Xiao Qiu, and they would surely be caught. What to do? She suddenly thought of a plan. There was a dried-up ditch behind the temple, with bushes growing along the edge. If she could lure these 3 men away first, then circle back, she could take Xiao Qiu and run from the other side. But the risk was too great. On says she failed, Xiao Qiu would be lost. Just as Lin Zhixia was hesitating, a sharp whistle suddenly rang out outside the temple. The 3 men stopped in their tracks, looking around vigilantly. A hoarse voice came from the shadows. Sent by the Lin family. Since when did you lot start taking jobs on this road? The 3 men's faces changed drastically. Lin Zhixia peeked out from the wall crevice. She saw 7 or 8 ragged but menacing-looking men emerging from the bushes. The one-eyed man in the lead was carrying a notched broadsword. They were highway bandits. The Lin family men had run into bandits. Lin Zhixia felt a surge of joy, but she knew the danger had increased. Bandits were even more terrifying than the Lin family. The 2 sides stood in a standoff for a moment. The Lin family men seemed to recognize the one-eyed man, and their expressions turned grim. We are from the Lin family, acting on orders. Let's keep to our own business. The one-eyed man spat on the ground. I don't care about your Lin family or whatever. This is my turf. Leave the toll money and get lost. The Lin family men cursed as they handed over the money and left in a hurry. The one-eyed man pocketed the money, glanced at the earth temple, yawned, and headed to the next spot. The group left, still cursing. Lin Zhixia leaned against the wall, her back soaked in cold sweat. She waited for a while, confirming that it was completely quiet outside, before running back behind the statue. Xiao Qiu was curled up in the crevice, his hands covering his mouth tightly. Tears were streaming down his face silently, but he hadn't made a sound. Lin Zhixia pulled him out and hugged him tightly. Xiao Qiu, you're a good boy, the best boy. Sister is here. Sister is here. Only then did Xiao Qiu burst into tears, shivering like a leaf in the wind. Lin Zhixia held him close, gently patting his back over and over again. Her eyes were fixed on the darkness outside the temple door, her gaze as cold as ice. They couldn't stop. They couldn't slow down. They had to reach the northern frontier as soon as possible. After another 10 days on the road, Lin Zhixia had already used up most of the compressed biscuits and jerky from her storage space. Xiao Qiu finally had a bit of meat on his face, no longer the skin and bones little wretch he was when they started. But Lin Zhixia herself had grown thin. She saved the best food for her younger brother, eating very little herself. Xiao Qiu would sometimes notice, placing the meat from his bowl into hers. If sister doesn't eat, Xiao Qiu won't eat either. Lin Zhixia was always left between laughter and tears. On the 11th day, they finally saw the gates of Yanyan Pass. It was a massive stone fortress looming over the valley entrance. Flags fluttered wildly on the ramparts, and the shadows of patrolling soldiers stretched long in the sunset. Xiao Qiu poked his head out from Lin Zhixia's back, his eyes wide. Sister, what a huge house. Lin Zhixia smiled. That is not a house. That is the city wall. Father is inside there. Really? Father is inside. Xiao Qiu suddenly perked up, kicking his little legs to get down. Let's go find Father. Lin Zhixia set him down, took his hand, and walked step by step toward the gate. The soldiers at the gate stopped them. Halt, who goes there? I'm looking for Lin Jian. Captain Lin. Lin Zhixia looked up, her voice steady. I am his daughter. The soldier was taken aback, looking them up and down. The 2 children were sallow and thin, but their eyes were startlingly bright. Captain Lin's daughter? The soldier frowned. Captain Lin left the pass half a month ago. He went to war. Lin Zhixia's heart sank. When will he be back? That is hard to say. 3 to 5 days at the earliest, or maybe 10 days or half a month. Xiao Qiu didn't understand what 3 to 5 days meant, but he understood that father wasn't there. His mouth trembled. On the verge of tears, Lin Zhixia crouched down. Don't cry, Xiao Qiu. Father went to fight the bad guys. He'll be back when he is done. We'll wait for father here. Okay. Xiao Qiu held back his tears and nodded, hugging Lin Zhixia tightly. In the days that followed, Lin Zhixia took Xiao Qiu and settled down in Yanyan Pass. There was a military infirmary in the city that treated soldiers returning from the front lines. Lin Zhixia approached the military doctor, saying she could identify herbs and dress wounds, and wanted to help. The doctor was a man in his 50s. At first, he didn't believe her. What can a little girl do? But Lin Zhixia showed him her skills. She cleaned the festering wound of a soldier's arm, applied medicine, and bandaged it. Her movements more efficient than the doctor's own apprentice. The old doctor was stunned. Stay. From then on, Lin Zhixia helped at the infirmary during the day. At night, she would tell Xiao Qiu stories. She earned a small room through her labor and 2 meals a day. Although it was humble, it was finally a place to call home. Xiao Qiu was also very well behaved, never crying or making a fuss during the day, and sometimes helping his sister pass gauze. He followed Lin Zhixia around like a little shadow. The wounded soldiers in the infirmary all liked Xiao Qiu, teasing him whenever they had a moment. They would save a portion of their rations for him. Xiao Qiu had a sweet way with words, calling everyone uncle when he saw them, charming the group of rough men until they beamed with joy. On the 7th day, the sound of horns echoed from the city walls. They're back. Captain Lin is back. Lin Zhixia was changing a bandage for a wounded soldier, and the gauze in her hand dropped to the ground. She turned and ran outside. By the time she reached the city gate, it was already packed with crowds of people. Soldiers were cheering, and the townspeople were peering out. A troop of cavalry rode majestically through the gate. Their armor was covered in dust and bloodstains, but every face wore the smile of victory. Lin Zhixia squeezed desperately through the gaps in the crowd. She saw him. At the very front of the procession, a tall man sat on horseback, his cloak snapping in the wind. His face was covered in stubble. His left arm was wrapped in bandages, but his back was held straight, and his eyes were bright and steady. Lin Zhixia recognized him instantly. It wasn't the original owner's memory. It was Xiao Qiu, who had somehow slipped away from her side, stumbled through the crowd, and ran in front of that horse. He tilted his head back and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Daddy!" The voice was sharp and clear, cutting through all the noise. The horse stopped. Lin Zhiyi looked down, seeing a dirty little thing clinging to his horse's leg, looking up with a face smeared like a little cat's, big eyes filled with tears, his mouth wide open, crying his heart out, still calling out, "Daddy! Xiao Qiu missed you, Daddy!" Lin Zhiyi's pupils contracted sharply. He swung himself off the horse. "Xiao Qiu?" He knelt down, his hands trembling as he cupped that small face. Looking at him carefully, Xiao Qiu's 3 little baby teeth, the tiny notch on his right earlobe. It was exactly the same as the day he had left home. "Xiao Qiu. It really is my Xiao Qiu." Lin Zhiyi pulled his son into his arms. "Xiao Qiu, Daddy's little Xiao Qiu." Xiao Qiu was being held too tightly, his little face turning bright red, but he didn't struggle. Instead, he used his small hands to wrap tightly around his father's neck, sobbing until he was breathless. The surrounding crowd slowly quieted down. The soldiers watched their captain kneeling on the ground, holding a dirty little boy, crying like a child himself. Lin Zhiyi suddenly remembered something, and he jerked his head up, looking all around. His gaze swept over the crowd and landed on a thin, small girl. The girl was wearing old patched clothes, her hair was a mess, and there was dirt on her face, but her back was held straight, and her almond-shaped eyes were dark and bright, smiling right at him. Tears slid silently down that small face. She said, "Daddy, we found you." Lin Zhiyi froze. That is his daughter. When he left home 3 years ago, she was only 3. She still wore her hair in 2 little buns, chasing after his horse, crying and shouting, "Daddy, don't go." Now she is 6. She brought her 3-year-old brother, traveling 800 miles. To find him, Lin Zhiyi let go of Xiao Qiu, stumbled to his feet, and rushed over in a few strides, pulling his daughter into his arms. "Zhixia. My little Zhixia." As Lin Zhixia was held by him, she smelled the scent of rust and dust on him, the scent of blood and sweat. This is the scent of a father. She had no father in her past life, but in this life, heaven has made it up to her. She reached out and gently patted Lin Zhiyi's back, saying in a small voice, "I'm hungry." Lin Zhiyi broke into a tearful smile, picked her up, and spun her around 3 times. The soldiers around them finally reacted, and cheers erupted to the heavens. "Captain Lin's daughter is here. 800 miles. A 6-year-old child, carrying her 3-year-old brother, walked 800 miles. Whose child is this? Are they made of iron?" Xiao Qiu was tossed into the air and caught by the soldiers, giggling uncontrollably. Lin Zhixia, held in her father's arms, looked at the bustling city and her brother's smiling face, and the corners of her mouth curved up. She closed her eyes and whispered to herself in her heart, "Grandma, I am here now, and I have family too." After the excitement of the reunion subsided, in the dead of night, Lin Zhiyi sat in the small hut, holding the sleeping Xiao Qiu in his left arm, and gently patting Lin Zhixia, who lay on his lap with his right hand, as if trying to make up for the 3 years he had missed. "Zhixia, tell Daddy how you two survived these past 3 years?" Lin Zhixia did not cry or complain. She did not whine, but recounted the last 3 years in a plain, straightforward manner. The cruelty of the Lin family toward them, going hungry, being scolded, her mother falling gravely ill, having no money for medicine, her uncle pushing her over, knocking her unconscious, her mother passing away, and Xiao Qiu staying by her side alone for 2 days and 1 night. She added no embellishments, but every word was like a needle, stabbing into Lin Zhiyi's heart. Lin Zhiyi's hands were trembling. "When I left your mother 30 taels of silver, enough to last you 3 years. His voice was heavy. "Where is that silver?" "Uncle took it," Lin Zhixia said. "When mother was dying, I asked uncle for it, but uncle said that money was a loan for daddy's travel expenses, and that since daddy left he was unfilial, and had no right to take it back." Lin Zhiyi slammed his fist onto the table, and the wooden table cracked with the impact. Xiao Qiu was startled, mumbled a few times in his sleep, and turned over to continue sleeping. Lin Zhixia looked up at her father. "There is one more thing that might make you even angrier. Tell me." Lin Zhixia told Lin Zhiyi everything she had overheard that night, the conversation between Lin Botao and the royal family. She told Lin Zhiyi everything word for word. She spoke very slowly. Every word was crystal clear. He looked at Lin Zhixia, his gaze complex. "You are only 6 years old. How do you know more than I do?" Lin Zhixia didn't change her expression. "I dreamed it. Maybe mother told me in a dream. This explanation was certainly far-fetched, but Lin Zhiyi did not press further. She chose to believe her daughter, because other than that, she had no other choice. A few days later, Lin Zhiyi took the two children to pay respects at the cenotaph of the Zhao family. Xiao Qiu knelt before the grave, calling out "Mother" in a milky voice. Lin Zhiyi knelt there, not saying a single word, but tears fell one by one into the dirt. Lin Zhixia stood to the side, watching this scene. She did not kneel, but from her space, she took out the osmanthus cakes her mother loved most. She had made them specially using ingredients from her space before the Qiu family's caravan set out, and had kept them ever since. She placed the cakes before the grave, and said softly, "Mother, rest easy. Father is back. I will take good care of Xiao Qiu. You take care of yourself on the other side." A gust of wind blew by, scattering the scent of the osmanthus cakes into the air. Xiao Qiu sniffed, and suddenly said, "Mother, Xiao Qiu will be good. Big sister says if Xiao Qiu is good, mother will be happy." Lin Zhiyi pulled both children into his arms, his voice hoarse. "From now on, father will protect you. Xiao Qiu will protect big sister too." Lin Zhiyi smiled. "Good. Xiao Qiu will protect big sister too." Lin Zhiyi was in no rush to investigate his own origins. He chose to remain at Yanyan Pass for the time being. "This is my battlefield, the place I defended with my life. No matter whose son I am, the people in this city call me Captain Lin. I cannot abandon them." Lin Zhixia did not try to persuade him otherwise. She knew better than anyone that the most precious thing a person has is not their status or bloodline, but their choices. Lin Zhiyi had chosen to be a protector, and she, too, had her own path to follow. Lin Zhixia opened a small clinic in Yanyan Pass. Though it was called a clinic, it was actually just a small room next to the military infirmary. She hung a wooden board at the entrance, with the words written crookedly on it, "Benevolent Heart Hall." Xiao Qiu used crayons to draw a little flower on the board, saying it was to make Big Sister's clinic look nicer. Lin Zhixia looked at that ugly sign, and laughed until she doubled over. But the reputation of Benevolent Heart Hall soon spread throughout Yanyan Pass. It wasn't because the sign was pretty, but because of Lin Zhixia's medical skills. She could treat wounds others couldn't, and use prescriptions no one else could think of. Wounded soldiers carried from the front lines could survive under her care, and the difficult illnesses of the city's residents would show improvement after just 3 doses of her medicine. The old military doctor now no longer called her little girl, but had changed it to Dr. Lin. Every time Lin Zhixia heard this title, she found it a bit amusing. In her past life, she didn't become a sect leader until she was 36. In this life, I became a doctor at 6. But there was something else that made her even prouder. Xiao Qiu was 5 years old now. His health had finally recovered. He was no longer the frail little thing he had been when he first arrived at Yanyan Pass. He had grown quite a bit taller. He ran like a gust of wind, and his laughter was as crisp as a bell. He had become the darling of the military camp. The soldiers taught him how to ride horses, and he learned to do it quite well. One day, while Xiao Qiu was sitting on a wooden training horse, waving a tree branch, he shouted in his little milk voice, "I'll protect my sister." Lin Zhixia stood at the entrance of the clinic, watching that tiny figure on the wooden horse, and suddenly recalled a saying. It was something her grandmother often said in her past life. People must have someone of their own blood to understand that living is about more than just surviving. She curled the corners of her mouth, turned around, and went back into the clinic. There were still 12 patients waiting for her today. After the new year, a secret letter from the capital shattered the peace of Yanyan Pass. The letter was addressed to Lin Zhiyi. The person who wrote it claimed to be his biological mother. The woman said that she hadn't died. During the palace coup all those years ago, she had been cast into the cold palace, but had managed to escape by luck. She had lived under an assumed name for all these years, constantly searching for her son. She said that she had uncovered the truth, cleared her name of the false charges, and had now returned to the capital, waiting for him to return and reunite. After reading the letter, Lin Zhiyi remained silent for an entire night. The next morning, he handed the letter to Lin Zhixia. "Zhixia, tell me, should I go back?" Lin Zhixia finished reading the letter, thought for a moment, and said, "Father, do you want to hear the truth? Speak. You shouldn't go back." Lin Zhiyi looked at her. Lin Zhixia's voice was soft, but very steady. "I'm afraid that if you leave, you won't come back. I don't know that place. And I don't know the people there. I only have you." Lin Zhiyi smiled. He reached out and ruffled his daughter's hair. 6 years old, with the heart of a 12-year-old. Lin Zhixia curled the corners of her mouth. 36. Lin Zhiyi didn't understand. "What?" Lin Zhixia shook her head. "Nothing." In the end, Lin Zhiyi did not return to the capital. He wrote a letter and had someone deliver it back to the capital. The letter contained only one sentence: "I will guard this city well. Take care of your health. If mother and son are destined, we shall meet again." He did not call her mother, but he did not reject her either. Lin Zhixia read the letter, and felt that this was for the best. Some relationships do not need to be confirmed in a hurry. Some paths do not need to be rushed to the end. When Xiao Qiu was 5.5, something happened that left Lin Zhixia both amused and exasperated. That day, a special patient came to the clinic, a little girl who had gotten separated from her father. She was 4 years old, crying until she was gasping for air. When Xiao Qiu saw the little girl, he walked over to her and handed her the last candy in his pocket. Don't cry anymore. Big brother will protect you. The little girl took the candy with a sniffle and put it in her mouth. She stopped crying. Xiao Qiu said solemnly, "What is your name?" "My home is over there. My sister is a doctor. She can help you find your father." Lin Zhixia stood to the side, dumbfounded. She suddenly had a premonition that this little brother of hers would likely bring home a whole crowd of future sisters-in-law. Spring passed and autumn came. On the walls of Yanyan Pass, the banners still snapped in the wind. At the entrance of the clinic, on the wooden sign that read, "Benevolent Heart Hall," the little flowers Xiao Qiu had drawn had faded, but a few new ones had appeared beside them. They were added by Xiao Qiu. Lin Zhixia stood at the doorway, looking at the mountains in the distance. She remembered a year ago, when she carried Xiao Qiu on her back from 800 miles away, walking step by step. At that time, she felt that the greatest mission of her life was to find her father and raise her brother. But now, her father had been found, and her brother had grown up, yet she realized there were still many people who needed her help, many illnesses that needed her to treat, and many hardships that she had to endure. But that was fine. She had her space, her medical skills, a father who would always stand behind her, and the cutest brother in the world. What else did she have to fear? Xiao Qiu came running from the direction of the barracks, holding a wildflower in his hand, sweating profusely, with mud on his face. "Sister, look, a flower Xiao Qiu picked. For you, sister." Lin Zhixia crouched down, took the mud-stained wildflower, and tucked it behind her ear. "Does it look good?" "Sister is the best looking." Lin Zhixia smiled. The sunset on the horizon was perfect, bathing all of Yanyan Pass in gold.